feeling like I personally was running Christmas. Like, who do I think I am? Santa Claus? Like, calm down. So December was honestly kind of a weird month because it involved kind of half being here in Edinburgh and trying to like finish up the work that I was doing but not really feeling like I was being very productive, and then half being in Ireland for Christmas. And Christmas for me is the entire kind of Yule period, and it involves the solstice, which is my spiritual religious kind of feature of the entire situation, but it also involves a lot of family time. It involves spending Christmas Day with my family and doing a lot of traditions that me and my parents kind of built up over time, or that my parents, particularly my dad, picked up from his parents. And you know, the meal and the presents and the tree and all of this, like we really, and I kind of blame myself for this mostly, like we really have a lot of stake in the Christmas traditions, and I feel like we've built up a lot of stress and pressure around it, despite the fact that on Christmas Day, it's just the three of us. So that was really a very strange time for me, in that on paper, I love Yule / Christmas. I love that time of year. I love the family aspect. We do also do like a wider family thing. We have the whole of my dad's family over, and we have like a cousin of mine and her parents over. You know, we do various family things like that. We don't do so much on my mum's side of the family just because we're not so close. But we do kind of do bigger family things as well. Obviously that contributes to the stress and the strain and everything. But I think what really creates that stress and strain primarily is, like I say, this weird expectation. So it's a very weird time of year for me. And I think this year is really the year that I finally realized, like, we're doing this wrong. I'm doing this wrong. There is no point to this. There's absolutely no point in having a Christmas and a New Year's and all of that is kind of stressful and is actually just an unpleasant time. Because who are we doing it for? Like, nobody's like watching, no one's gonna die if we don't have a perfect Christmas Day, is what I'm saying. So next year I'm trying to scale back. And like I say, a lot of this is me. I picked it up from my dad as well, though. We're both suckers for tradition. We're both suckers for having those things that like have to be done every single year, or otherwise, you know, the universe will implode. But yeah, like next year I think is going to be different. I'm going to be a lot more organized. I'm going to be a lot more doing things in advance. I'm going to be scaling things back, and hopefully, yeah. So yeah, December was a bit weird, and I really miss the relaxed and very kind of inward looking and very romantic kind of Yule that I used to have, I feel, when I was kind of in my teens or my early 20s. There was definitely a period of time when I left a lot of the responsibility to my parents because I was younger, and that was just how it worked, and I didn't have as much that I needed to worry about, as opposed to now, where, like I say, I'm taking on a lot of that responsibility myself, or trying to, or feel like I should. So I really miss that feeling, and a huge part of that feeling, especially, you know, from the age of like 23, I want to say. I don't exactly remember when I started celebrating Yule consistently again, or celebrating the winter solstice. I don't really call it Yule, it's just, Yule is a handy word for the whole period, but the solstice I just kind of call the solstice, or midwinter. But yeah, I used to have this very emotional connection with the winter solstice. I loved being able to spend it on my own in my own apartment back in Dublin when I lived on my own in a little bedsit. And it was a really special night for me, and I would get up the next morning and watch the sunrise, and maybe watch the video footage of Newgrange if that was a thing, and I really missed that. So I think being in Edinburgh and then not having my own space back in Dublin and all of that kind of has been a bit of a hindrance to the entire experience. So yeah, December was a bit weird. I said in my video in early December that I was really looking forward to the winter solstice, and it wasn't maybe all that I was hoping that it was going to be spiritually. Like, it didn't have that big kind of kick to it for me. January so far, January is nearly over. Where did it go? Okay. January has also been a bit weird, but I've been trying to get back into the swing of things. But I will say that spiritually speaking, January has been much stronger. And a huge part of this, I think, is that I finally made a commitment to myself. So Okay, I told you in that video that I made in early December that I was developing a morning routine and trying to change up what it was that I was spending my time doing in the morning. I'm pleased to say that I've kind of really stopped time wasting in the mornings now. Like I got into this really bad habit of like watching TV, maybe even playing a bit of a computer game before like starting work in the mornings because I was just so reluctant to get started. I would say that I'm spending just as much time in the morning like after getting up before I actually start working, but at least I fill that time now with productive things, because I made a commitment to myself in the beginning of January that I was going to meditate every single day, like non-negotiable, every single day. And I was also going to do yoga pretty much every day. I want to do yoga 365 times this year at least, but like giving myself a little bit of leeway to say do two mini sessions of yoga in one day to kind of make up for the day I lost, if that makes sense. Whereas meditation is like non-negotiable. Every single day, at least 5 minutes, preferably 15. And I'm really pleased to say that so far I have a 26-day, I'm recording this on the 26th, no, the 27th, but I haven't done my meditation today yet. So I have 26 days of at least, there was one day when I did 5 minutes. Every other day I've done at least 15. Yesterday was the first day that I did 2 sessions, 15 and 15. And I cannot overstate what a difference this has made to me, spiritually speaking. Like I really cannot overstate. I came back to Edinburgh, so I've been doing this from the 1st of January. I came back on the 12th and I had kind of a week of settling back in and feeling really exhausted and just really struggling to get back into my routine. But then I just hit this point of like starting to feel like I was having some sort of change in perspective and change in mentality and like some sort of shift. And there was one day in particular, it was last Sunday. Last Sunday. This Sunday, just a week ago. And I was just suddenly feeling optimistic again about everything and about particularly my spiritual practice and my spiritual involvement. And just this sense that I remember having of what I talked about before, a sort of faith, a very different kind of faith to a Christian faith, but managing to maintain some kind of a faith in a divine universe, and a faith, even an agnostic kind of notion about there being maybe some kind of, not a personal God, but that like some sort of universal consciousness or awareness, I suppose, that I call God or Goddess, and that I could be tapping into, say, during meditation / prayer. And I went out for a walk that day and I just happened to stumble on the most beautiful sunset I can remember seeing. I know I've probably seen more stunning sunsets in my life, but if I have, it's been a very long time. And I was like walking around the park just taking this in, and it just kept getting, it was one of those sunsets that just kept giving. It was after the sun had set, but the sky was just, it went from that kind of golden and it just got pinker and pinker. It was that real like highlighter yellow kind of pink, and then the rest was purple. It was just absolutely stunning. And as I kind of turned a corner around the pond, I just looked up and there was this huge full moon. You guessed it, like the super moon, the super wolf moon. And I had completely forgotten that this was happening. I had also completely forgotten that there was going to be an eclipse. So I saw the full moon and thought, oh yeah, it's a full moon today. Wow, like that's stunning. I didn't know it was a super moon. And I still didn't remember about the eclipse until I walked past a group of people. I heard one of them say, oh yeah, like that's, this is like the super blood moon that we're getting, blah, blah. And I kind of immediately thought, oh yeah, we're getting an eclipse tonight at some point. And also kind of, you know, snottily thought to myself, oh, he thinks that's it, that's not it, that's just the moonrise. Ha ha ha. I know more than you. I didn't really. So I immediately kind of looked it up and discovered, yes, it was a supermoon. I could see it was a supermoon, to be honest. It was, like, if you've ever seen a supermoon rising, which I hope you have in your life, because it does happen relatively often. But yeah, it's absolutely stunning. It's golden, huge looking moon. So I looked it up, found out when it was, and it was like just spontaneously like set myself an alarm for 4:30 in the morning, because it was set to be at its peak here, the eclipse, like the full eclipse is going to come in at like 20 to 5 and was going to be at its best at like 5:15 in the morning. So set my alarm for 4:30 in the morning and was like, I'm doing this. So, but it was not what I was expecting. It was bizarre. Like I had such a good feeling about it then. I just felt like this was like, I bizarrely felt like this was a gift that had been given personally to me. Like I went out on that walk like looking for something and it was just handed to me, like here is this spiritual opportunity handed to you on a plate, you know, what more do you want? So yeah, I woke up that night at about 3 a.m. and couldn't get back to sleep because, well, I got up and went out to, like, I was like, do you know, it was the closest that I've come to that feeling of like a child on Christmas morning that I've had in a really long time. It was very, very similar to that. Like, you know, when you would wake up, and I really hope that you've had a similar experience to this, that you've had a good enough childhood, and if you don't celebrate Christmas, that maybe this would happen on a different day of the year. And I'd like not to kind of get all up about like all excited, like too focused on material objects and gifts and stuff, but I really hope that you've had that kind of experience in your life where you wake up as a child on a really special morning, like just with that amazing sense of anticipation, like not just for the presents, but just for the sense of possibility and the excitement of the day to come. So anyway, that's just my side amble. I woke up at like 3 a.m. and it was just this kind of like Christmas morning kind of feeling, and I was like, oh God, I have to try and get back to sleep to get more sleep. But first I kind of went out to just have a peek at the moon, because I am lucky enough that I have west facing windows. So the full moon after about 2, 3 a.m. maybe becomes visible from my apartment. So I kind of ran into the living room and looked out, and the moon was just this huge, and it wasn't looking red at all at that point, even though it should have been a little bit, but it wasn't at all. It just looked like a really huge kind, had the kind of red ring around it, like on the like in the sky, like not on the actual moon, but like in the sky around it. So yeah, I saw that and was just so bright and so beautiful. And that probably just woke me up completely. So I lay in bed for kind of dozing for another while, and then eventually just got up in time to watch the eclipse kind of happen, like to watch it move across, to watch the shadow of the earth just move across the moon. And it was just so eerie. It was, I mean, I don't know if I've actually seen a lunar eclipse happen properly before. I think any other ones that I've seen, it's been very cloudy or something. And the only similar experience I've ever had was a total solar eclipse that we had back in the 90s. There was a partial solar eclipse in 2015, don't remember what year, 12, but we had a completely cloudy day, so all we got was the darkening and we couldn't see anything. But this was, yeah, it was really bizarre, and then the kind of red colour started to kind of gradually seep in as well, and it was more the feeling. I was expecting it to be more of a visual thing, like more of a visual experience, but actually what was kind of most prominent for me was this really strange vibe. Now, I have never been the kind of pagan who, for want of a better phrase, you know, quote unquote, believes in like the direct effect of, you know, moon energies on humans. Like, I don't really believe in energies. That's a lot of air quotes. But you kind of know what I mean. Like, I have a very mostly metaphorical understanding of these things. Also kind of like maybe a more literalistic physical understanding. Like, I think that things we experience have an effect on us because we've interacted with them or seen them, or had that experience, like that has an effect on us. So it's not that I think that none of these things have any effect on us. It's just not in the way necessarily that is commonplace amongst pagans, amongst kind of alternative spiritual people, astrologers and so on. So for me, the moon cycle, I don't have a very kind of strong concept of like what that changing moon cycle, what effect that has on me. But this really, yeah, and then like even in the last kind of couple of years, I've gotten more estranged even from that discourse. So I've become even more estranged from the idea that the moon can have any effect on me whatsoever. This just blew that out of the water. It was just this, like, no matter what way I think that it works, like in my head, it's like, oh, it's just, you know, a kind of physiological reaction to the experience I'm having while looking at this strange phenomenon, which is fine, that's one interpretation, but the reality is it's the same experience that I'm having that, say, another person is having who has a different interpretation of what the effect that the moon is having on us is. That is a really convoluted explanation, sorry, and really unnecessary, but suffice to say, like, the vibes were kind of out of this world. Like, I had forgotten how wired I can feel during a full moon, never mind like a full moon that is then eclipsed. And like the feeling of, I was lying in bed watching the light from the moon in the room kind of fade and fade, like get smaller and smaller, like because the light was kind of shining down under the curtains, and it was just surreal and eerie. That one particular experience I wouldn't say has like transformed me or my life in any like serious significant way. It was a really cool experience, but it was one of those experiences that I think that like builds up and combines with other things that over time has been helping me really come back into my own spiritually. And like last night, after the one day, like I say, this month that I've actually meditated twice in one day, I really started to feel like I was back in the kind of full meditative state that I used to be able to get into easily at the altar, and this kind of altered state of consciousness where I can tap into a sense of meaningfulness to existence and to my being, and this sense of connectedness, and just kind of all of those feelings that kept me convinced and had me on a convicted spiritual, I don't know, that kept the spiritual conviction in me for all these years and kept me coming back to the altar and coming back to ritual and coming back to doing all of these things rather than just letting it slide. It makes me really sad that the experience that I had last night, or the experience I had last week while watching the eclipse, it makes me really sad that that has become something very rare for me in my life. There was a time when that was maybe not a daily thing and maybe not the norm, but it was happening on the regular, and it was happening enough to instill a great conviction in me that what I am doing is of value, and not only of value, but that there's something real to it, that I'm not just kind of kidding myself or kind of playing make-believe or something when I sit at the altar, when I pray, when I think of things through a spiritual lens. It's making me really sad that I have to battle against that kind of skepticism all over again, because I just feel like I already did this. I went through all of this like 6-7 years ago, and it's really sad to me that I have to kind of battle through it all again. So yeah, I'm hoping to keep making changes. My minimalism project and my ideas about that, like, that's not completely gone or anything. I don't have anything at the moment that I'm kind of working to get rid of, but like I'm gradually like hoping to like work through all my things piece by piece, bit by bit, and like simplify my life a bit. But yeah, oh yeah, to get back to the daily routine though, just to finish off, so yeah, I have been, like I say, meditating every day. I've also been doing a very short kind of 10-minute yoga thing, like first thing out of bed I do yoga, like not necessarily every single day, but close. I've been trying to get back into a routine of running and working out in the morning as well, like consistently, which is a little bit tough because I let my fitness kind of decline a bit over January, kind of late December to mid-January. And what else have I been doing in the mornings? Trying to find time. I've actually stopped watching TV. I've actually stopped watching Netflix or any kind of TV show. I've stopped turning the computer on in the mornings. I've been trying to make time for reading non-fiction, but I think right now I need to maybe concentrate on kind of shortening my routine a little bit so that I don't really have the time to spend a half hour on reading in the morning. Not right now anyway. I don't know, I'll consider it. But instead, if I do anything else, I will just be listening to a couple of minutes maybe of a YouTube video that is specifically on a spiritual topic. And that's kind of pretty much it. That's pretty much just my morning routine. It's amazing how much time that takes up, especially when you add in the exercising and then showering, and then I have to do all the actual prep that normal people do, like showering and dressing and all of that. But yeah, just even those couple of simple components of having like the short yoga routine to kind of wake me up, the meditation routine, and I go through prayer beads and kind of do a prayer thing as well, usually in the morning, sometimes in the evenings instead. Yeah, like I do like reading nonfiction as well. It's a very peaceful time for me, those mornings, and I'm really glad to see them becoming sacred to me again in that way, like that they become this time, this me time, where I do all the things that I kind of want to do, because I find, as I said in that video before, that I don't do those things in the evenings, and what I want to do is do things like this in the evenings, because I'm more likely for some reason to make a YouTube video than I am to do yoga, which I have not done this evening. And I also haven't done any meditation. I need to do both of those things after I stop recording. So yeah, that's enough of that. This is going to be a tricky video to edit, but that's kind of always the way when I'm getting back into the swing of it. Thanks for watching. As always, if you've been following me for a long time, then thank you for being with me the whole way along the way, I guess. And here's to many more.